Melissa Jaffe with Rick Van Sice. Congrats, ladies.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, ladies. Despite a modest rise in coronavirus infection numbers recently, Governor Jay Inslee says he is loosening some of the restrictions in the state's phased reopening plan. KOMO's Charlie Harger has more.
Inslee says he's still not allowing any of the counties to change the phase they're in, but some...
This will show an incentive for our increasing desire to do the things that work, which includes wearing masks.
Not far enough, say critics. On Twitter, Washington Republican Party Chairman Caleb Heimlich says Inslee is killing jobs. He points to a study showing the state has the fifth highest rate of business closures in the nation. Charlie Harger, KOMO News.
President Trump's message that the coronavirus is not a big deal does not match with the numbers, says one Washington County leader. KOMO's Ryan Harris with more.
Snohomish County Executive Dave Summers says you only have to look at the numbers. More than 200,000 dead from COVID in the U.S., more than 1 million worldwide. And he says it becomes obvious.
The CDC has been very clear that wearing masks and social distancing can really help us turn this thing around. But we've just got to keep the message going and point to the obvious numbers that are right in front of our faces. So it's unhelpful, but it is what it is.
The new case rate in Snohomish County has risen to nearly 55 per 100,000 people in the past 2 weeks, and it's happening as we move to more time indoors. So the message now includes making sure you have good airflow in your house. Hospitalizations have remained relatively low in the county, but the other big concern is flu and COVID coming together. So the county health officer reminds you that now is the time to get your flu shot. In Snohomish County, Ryan Harris, KOMO News.
The number of COVID-19 cases along the University of Washington's off-campus Greek Road continues to climb. A total of 177 cases now reported involving students from 14 different fraternities and sororities. The school urges students who came in close contact with an infected peer to get tested. KOMO News Time 6:04. Marina with our KOMO traffic.
Well, we still have this backup southbound I-5 I've been talking about into the 5 curve, and much heavier than typically. That's still kind of struggling as well, leaving the South Hill Mall area over towards, looks like right around Woodlands, southbound 405 in Bellevue. That's struggling from Southeast 8th down to Coal Creek Parkway. Your next KOMO traffic at 6:14.
Weather outlook, and we have Shannon O'Donnell swinging by from the KOMO Weather Center.
Well, hi there, everybody. Tuesday night here in Western Washington. We wrapped up a beautiful day today with highs on either side of 70. That was the warmest.
That'll continue, but the actual act of removing a camp because it's a camp and maybe even pose a safety hazard, not even if it's a really bad hazard, yeah, they'll maybe go in. But if it's just some of these camps that are just existing and growing, they're not going to go in and remove them. The SBD said that. So,
but even if some of these non-city sanctioned encampments that are on city right of way, they don't have permits. Those are illegal encampments. So why not enforce the law? What's the argument?
Well,
there?
that's all COVID. The argument is that we don't have enough shelter space to put everybody in, and we do have some concrete shelter space, but we can't do it because of COVID. And the CDC, and this is where the city's hanging its hat, CDC has said, let camps exist because people can shelter in their tents. And that's where the city is. That's what the city's policy is right now, and that's indefinite until this COVID goes away. So there was a confrontation in Friday's meeting with the HSE director and council members, as well as the deputy mayor, about whether or not this money, part of this $152 million that's going to be spent on homelessness, whether that's actually going to fund cleanups by SBD officers, because the mayor's reimagining of the navigation team is basically a smaller squad of city workers that goes out and does outreach with no full-time SBD officers. But if need be, you can call on the SBD officers to help them if maybe remove a camp if necessary. So when they pin down the deputy mayor today on whether or not city funds will be spent on clearing camps, namely for SBD doing it, he punted and said, well, we're still in negotiations between all the departments and SBD whether that'll happen.
Well, I can't imagine the city council would go for that, because the city council has made it very clear they're opposed to getting rid of homeless encampments.
Yes. Well, and especially SBD doing that. Now, they're not opposed to getting people off the street and getting them out of camps. I mean, they speak very highly of the ability of the successes of the city to do that. And the city has had successes of doing that, just not at the volume that's needed right now. And the housing is still in such short supply, you're still going to see people in the camps. So, and now there's no process to actually clear a camp if it's really a problematic camp. It's the only process is to go and individually pull out people who may be accused of crimes and trying to eliminate that element. That's why SBD will go in there. And then the outreach workers trying to get them out of camps, and a lot of them don't want to do it. And you have the same old cycle we've had for a long time.
That's KOMO's Matt Markovich speaking with Jeff Poggioli, and you can hear more of their conversation on if you subscribe to the KOMO Politicast at KOMOnews.com/podcasts.
A runaway kangaroo has been corralled in Monroe. We go to KOMO's Bill O'Neill for the story.
Police say the 8-week-old animal had been asleep inside of a van at a home on West Main Street. It woke up and started moving around. That's when someone opened a door and it hopped off. A search quickly began, officers receiving a call a few hours later from a nearby home where the kangaroo was spotted in a carport. An experienced kangaroo handler was then called in to corral the animal. Bill O'Neill, KOMO News.
I heard a lot of people saying, I didn't think you could own a kangaroo. And I read then that our state is one of the states you can if you have a permit. So
really? Yeah. Well, this is a little 8-month-old guy, right? I think just a little tiny hopper.
What a strange thing. Yeah. Seattle storms its way to another WNBA championship. KOMO's Bill Swartz with the latest at the Beacon Plumbing Sports Desk.
It was a slow start in the Florida bubble, but the Seattle Storm caught fire in the second quarter and never looked back. Boat racing, the Las Vegas Aces 92-59 to sweep the WNBA Finals.
Utter and complete domination. In a year we will never forget. The Seattle Storm are the team we will always remember. They are your 2020 WNBA champions.
There it is on ESPN. Breanna Stewart was saddled with early foul trouble, but still poured in a game-high 26 points and was named the Finals MVP. The Storm have now won 4 WNBA championships in their history. NBA Finals Game 4 just getting underway in Florida and on KOMO TV4. The Miami Heat are down 2-1 to the LA Lakers. Seattle Seahawks were off today, but reportedly talking with defensive help, including former Seahawks linebacker Michael Kendricks. The Atlanta Braves win Game 1 of the NLDS 9-5 over the Miami Marlins, and the Houston Astros go up 2-0 on the Oakland A's in one American League Division Series. Sports updates at 10:40 after the hour. Bill Swartz, KOMO News.
And our congratulations to the Storm. Way to go, ladies. Democratic Senator Patty Murray says the president's Supreme Court nomination is a threat to the future of affordable health care and women's reproductive rights. Here's KOMO's Sue Romero with the story.
Senator Murray says one of the biggest reasons Republicans are so determined to fill the Supreme Court seat before the election is because they want to end access to safe legal abortion, which Judge Amy Coney Barrett supports.
Judge Barrett signed onto a letter explicitly calling to put an end to what she called, quote, barbaric legacy of Roe v. Wade.
Murray was joined by a local woman who'd had an abortion and explains,
I will never have shame nor be convinced this wasn't the right choice for me. And I'm speaking out to normalize this experience because there's nothing wrong with not being ready to be a parent.
Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says Barrett is, quote, exactly the kind of person Americans deserve on their highest court. Sue Romero, KOMO News.
Political ads and messages always spike before major elections, but this year there's a huge surge in political text messages, and not everybody's happy about that. KOMO's Connie Thompson has what you can do if it's getting to be too much.
Political campaigns are targeting smartphone screens more than ever.
Yeah, so really we started to see the upswing actually in August and September.
Julia Porter works for RoboKiller, a tech company that helps block unwanted cell phone messages. Their analytics show that political text messages have surpassed campaign campaign robocalls, from 350 million political texts in June to more than 1 billion for the month of September. It's legal. RoboKiller says both parties appear to be accelerating their texting strategies, thanks in part to technology known as peer-to-peer texting.
The technology of that system will text people individually rather than from an auto dialer. So prior consent technically is not required.
How do they get your number? Remember, certain voter information becomes public record through your voter registration and or returned ballots that may contain your name and phone number. But you may have opted into correspondence by donating or signing up for campaign information. How do you stop it? Contact the campaign and ask to be removed from their list. Opt out online or go the app route, where text and call blocking companies like RoboKiller take care of it for you.
You tell RoboKiller which types of categories of calls you'd like to block, and then RoboKiller's algorithm gets to work. And as incoming unwanted calls are happening, we're blocking those for you.
Or just ignore them and expect the pursuit of your screen to likely gain momentum between now and November 3rd. RoboKiller suggests that you also remember that you might be giving information yourself by making it available on social media. So they suggest that you Google your own phone number, because you might discover that you don't have the privacy settings that you think you do.
And that's KOMO's Connie Thompson reporting. It's 6:14. Here's Marina with traffic.
Well, we are seeing a lot of improvement, actually. Southbound 405 has improved greatly coming out of Bellevue. So the backup that was from Northeast 8th to I-90 has pretty much dissipated. I mean, there's just a little bit of slowdown right near I-90. You get out of it pretty quickly. Where we're still seeing a lingering backup is southbound I-5 from Highway 18 through 5 down to 54th. Then it improves from there, and you should have no trouble through Tacoma or Lakewood. And we're looking good in the north end, too. No trouble in Mount Lake Terrace or Kirkland, and Everett is looking good. Your next KOMO traffic at 6:24.
Traffic sponsored by the law offices of Harold D. Carr. Harold and his 55-person team have helped more than 22,000 people with their personal injury cases since 1991. Car accident? Call Carr. Visit HaroldCarrattorney.com. We'll have the morning fog again tomorrow, and then a mostly sunny day, but we're going to gradually see more cloud cover coming in for the next couple of afternoons. High temperatures in the mid-60s, rain ramping up Friday night into Saturday. Downtown Seattle now 66 degrees at 6:15.
Stay connected, stay informed. The Northwest's only 24-hour news station, KOMO News.
We appreciate you joining us this evening. I'm Rick Van Cise with Elisa Jaffe, and our editor is Jeremy Grader.
The Department of Justice is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to bring back the possibility of the death penalty in the Boston Marathon bombers case.
Also in the news today, we are finding these headlines, including the Boeing stock tumbling as the company revises downward the number of planes it will build over the next decades.
President Trump is reportedly experiencing no coronavirus symptoms today, has come out swinging against another economic shutdown or a new stimulus package before the election.
A lot of news coming out of Washington, D.C. He's telling Americans there's no need to shut down America since that hasn't been done during the flu season, which is approaching and, according to the president, can be worse than coronavirus. All right, let's go to ABC's Andy Field on the KOMO Newsline in Washington, D.C. to help us navigate through these new developments. And first on the flu season, Andy, this message flies in the face of what the president told Bob Woodward, that COVID is far worse than the flu. So what's been the fallout around the Beltway today?
Well, there's nothing true about the statement that you just said from the president that flu is far worse than COVID. Flu on any given year, maybe 50 to 80,000 deaths in the absolute worst year in the United States. We're heading toward 300,000 now. We're over 210. They're expecting that we could hit 300,000 before the end of the year. I mean, it's just extraordinary, the statements that the president's making that simply aren't true. In terms of what's happening in Washington, the big talk today here is not so much about the president's health, which we haven't really seen much for him. He's been tweeting a lot, and one of the things he tweeted literally was a jaw-dropper here in Washington and for millions of Americans, especially in and around Seattle and other big cities who are still unemployed, or businesses that are still out of business or close to it because of the coronavirus pandemic. they were all expecting some more COVID relief. Well, the president today tweeted that we're cutting off talks. They're not going to talk anymore about any more COVID relief until after the election, when he says, and after I'm elected, then we'll pass something good. In the meantime, he wants the Senate to just focus on confirming his Supreme Court choice. Now, it's understandable why he wants to do that, but it doesn't help millions of Americans who are really hurting right now, haven't gotten that additional $600 a week in unemployment benefits since the end of July. Businesses have run out of the payroll protection plan money. And there's nothing anyone can do about it if the president's not going to sign off on it and Republicans aren't going to insist on it.
Democrats can't be happy about that. But, Andy, was there some broader reaction through the nation's capital today? Because it seemed like this is a bit of surprise. You heard the Treasury Secretary was talking with Nancy Pelosi last week. Maybe they could come up with some sort of a deal. What's been the reaction?
They were still talking when the president tweeted here. I think he may have actually blindsided his own Treasury Secretary with his tweet. And then there was the Fed chair today testifying on Capitol Hill that Congress absolutely should pass another stimulus bill, that the economy, it could indeed get even worse if they don't do it. The president literally tweeted, true. That was the reaction to that. And yet it is the president himself who has cut off any talks of COVID relief before the election.
So if the president is not reelected, is there any doubt that he would then resume talks regardless of how the election goes?
No one knows. I mean, the president has been so unpredictable in almost everything he says and does. So we don't know what's going to happen or whether he'll spend several months trying to contest this here. He certainly isn't happy with some of the polling that came out today in Pennsylvania. There was one poll that had Joe Biden up 14 or 15 points ahead of him, and the president tweeted, how could that be possible? Joe Biden is against fracking. He's against the Second Amendment. He's against religion. Three things that are simply not true. Joe Biden says he's not against fracking. He's against new fracking and instead would rather invest money in renewable energies. Number two, he is absolutely for the Second Amendment, and he's a gun owner. And number three, he is probably one of the more devout people who have run for president, attending church every day, a very devout Catholic, has practiced all his life. So the three things that the president said that voters in Pennsylvania should fear from Joe Biden simply aren't true.
No shortage of surprising stories and developments out of Washington, D.C., and we thank, as always, ABC News correspondent from Washington, Mandy Field.
6:20, Jim Cheska with our Propel Insurance Money Update.
Stocks finished with broad and sharp losses today. The market giving up early, narrow gains at mid-afternoon. The New York Times following President Trump's tweet indicating he was calling off further economic stimulus talks with Democrats until after the election. The Dow Jones Industrial slid 375 points. The S&P 500 lost 47. The tech-heavy NASDAQ Composite tumbled 178. With the coronavirus pandemic continuing to weigh heavily on travel demand, Boeing is cutting its expectations for new commercial aircraft orders over the next decade by about 11% compared to its year-ago outlook. The jet maker said demand for new commercial aircraft will be driven in the medium term by carriers replacing older, less fuel-efficient planes rather than purchases aimed at growth. Hurt by that news and the news about stimulus talks being put on hold, shares of Boeing skidded 7% today. That's your money now.
Money news at 20 and 50 past the hour. Traffic coming up.
Information is power. Everything you need to know before you get to work. The Como Morning News with Greg Hersholt and Man of Factor on Como News 1000, FM 97.7, and ComoNews.com.
Hey, what do you want to da-da-da? I don't know. What do y'all think we should da-da-da? Well, what did we da yesterday? Yesterday. All the dolls feel like the same doll these days. I know. Like, is today Monday or Tuesday? Today is Thursday. Oh, no, I forgot to call my mom on her birthday. Oh, no. No.
These days, nothing is normal and everything is weird. But you could still save big when you switch to Progressive. That won't change. Not today or any day.
Quote today at Progressive.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Hi, I'm Dr. Anita Chandra with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. To keep your family healthy and safe, it's important to be ready if disasters happen. Develop a family communication plan. Make sure your family, including your children, know how to reach each other. Make a kit with first aid supplies, medicine, medical records, and comforting things for your child. Finally, talk about what to do when emergencies happen, like streets flooding, a power outage, or a fire. For more, visit healthychildren.org.
That sound is why we fund life-saving science. That sound is why we push you to be healthier. That sound is why we have an unhealthy obsession with your health at American Heart Association. Get the facts at heart.org/yourhealth.
This is Brad Keselowski, driver number 2, Discount Tire Ford Mustang. Racing fans know that a quick pit stop to check the tires can give me the winning edge. The same is true for your car. Proper tire tread helps keep traction on the road in everyday driving. To check your tread, simply insert a penny, Lincoln's head first, into your tire grooves. If you can see all of Honest Abe's head, it's time to get your tires checked by a professional.
A message from the U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association.
Hi, I'm Brad Keselowski, driver number 2, Discount Tire Ford Mustang. If there's one thing I've learned after years on the track, it's that having the right amount of pressure in your tires can make or break performance. Properly inflated tires are essential to the health of your car and to keep you driving safely. Check your tire pressure once a month, especially before road trips, or stop by your neighborhood tire retailer for help.
A message from the U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association.
No man, no woman, no one left behind. For the VFW, it's a credo that stands long after our fighting days are over, because our service never stops. We're still serving, which is why we pledge to help our own, no matter where they are or when they need us. Standing in lockstep with those who stood so courageously for everyone else. It's what makes us the VFW. Learn more at vfw.org.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shelley Flace with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. If you own firearms, it's your responsibility to make sure they're always stored safely. Hiding them in a closet or drawer is not enough. Kids know where they are. Research shows the risk of injury and death is lower if guns are stored unloaded and locked up, with the ammunition locked in a separate place. This is important when children are young, as well as when they grow into teenagers. For more, talk with your pediatrician or visit healthychildren.org.
624, Marina Rockinger with Como traffic.
Well, it's improved quite a bit in most areas, but there's a couple backups left. One is southbound 405 at I-90 in Bellevue to about 112. So just when we thought that was improving, it looks like it got heavy again, but I think that's going to dissipate soon. The other one is southbound I-5 from Highway 18 into 5. It's just not letting go. It's solid from Highway 18 down to 54th in 5. And now I'm seeing a slowdown 167 winding your way across Highway 410 into Puyallup. This Look at Traffic is sponsored by Snoqualmie Casino. Snoqualmie Casino's shopping event is back. The more you play, the more shopping dollars you earn towards items from your favorite brands. Go to snocasino.com for details. Seattle's closest Snoqualmie Casino. Your next Como traffic at 6:34.
Another pleasant day in our forecast around the Pacific Northwest tomorrow. We will have an afternoon high in the mid to upper 60s, morning fog, afternoon sun breaks, and we're at 64 in downtown Seattle. Como News Time 625.
As dining starts to move indoors with the weather, restaurants are investing in new air filtration systems. Britt Thorson from Seattle Refined here with what's going on. Restaurants have got to be on top of this with customers' concerns because of COVID, Britt.
Exactly. They're doing everything they can think of to sway diners into eating out, or I guess in, at their restaurants more often right now. A big part of this, obviously, for diners is feeling safe while sitting inside, something that a lot of people just don't feel comfortable with in the pandemic. So some fortunate restaurateurs are investing thousands of dollars for fancy air filtration systems that they hope will bring about some peace of mind for diners who might want to come in. Enzo's in Issaquah has a state-of-the-art ultraviolet HVAC system, which disinfects the air with UV light to improve the indoor air quality and ventilation. And they're not the only ones. Duke's Seafood just spent $20,000 on air filtering systems that they say effectively kill airborne coronavirus particles in all 7 of their locations. It's crazy. This is called needlepoint bipolar ionization, and it's the same system installed in Google, the Mayo Clinic, and dozens of hospitals. Everyone's just doing everything they can do to try and get people to come in and feel safe and comfortable. And so the business can stay, and they can still serve their food, they can still pay their folks, and people can feel safe. So as more and more of these businesses start spending money on these crazy fancy air filtration systems, I guess the biggest question is just going to be, is that going to be enough for people to feel safe and dine in at restaurants? Which, I don't know. I think will change from person to person. I guess we'll just have to We've got that full list of restaurants we found who are upgrading their systems if you're interested to see online right now.
What a huge investment at a time when they're hurting already, though.
Exactly, and that's why I was saying it's only the fortunate restaurateurs, the ones who have that money, who have that capital, who have someone backing them to be able to, at a time, like you said, when things are so lean anyways, to be able to sink thousands of dollars in, and just they've got to be just crossing their fingers that it'll end up helping them in the long run.
Go to SeattleRefined.com for more on that story. Thanks, Brett.
76% of employees have struggled with at least one issue that affected their mental health. When you share, you're not alone. Ask about your company's emotional health benefits. Visit heart.org/sharing. Brought to you by the American Heart Association.
Right now, more than 125,000 children are waiting to be adopted from foster care. The Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption works around the clock to find them the permanent, loving homes they deserve. You can help. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nia Hurd-Garris with today's Tip for Kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. As parents, we want our children to grow up healthy and strong. That means helping teens take responsibility for their health as they become young adults. One way to do that is to make sure they have one-on-one time with their pediatrician. That helps them become comfortable talking about any health issue with their doctors and with you. So make sure to give your teen a voice. It's good for their health. For more on teen health, visit healthychildren.org.
Meet Ingrid, fiery spirit, caring grandma, proud trucker.
I've logged more than 4 million miles in my truck. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. I was driving outside of Ohio when a gentleman stopped suddenly in front of me. But it takes my 80,000-pound truck 200 yards to stop. I'd given myself extra room, but it's not a chance worth taking.
It's our roads. It's our safety. Visit www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Before I was adopted, I felt like my life was already over.
My biggest fear was that I would age out and not know how to be sufficient on my own.
At a certain age, like they don't want you, you're troubled and stuff.
The clock is ticking for the more than 125,000 kids waiting to be adopted from foster care. Help the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption prevent them from aging out without a permanent family. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
Como News 1000, FM 97.7, winner of the prestigious Edward R. Murrow Award for Best Newscast.
Coming up on Como News.
I'm Ryan Harris with the possibility of additional help for people behind on their utility bills.
How to fit everything King County needs into a $12 billion budget. I'm Sue Romero with what the council is looking at.
UW leaders take to the national stage to discuss the process for approving vaccines for the coronavirus. I'm Charlie Harder with more.
Plus, a check on traffic at 6:30.
Now that President Trump has COVID-19, should he and Democrat Joe Biden debate next week? Biden says that depends.
I think if he still has COVID, we shouldn't have a debate.
The candidates are scheduled to meet next Thursday. Vice President Mike Pence and Democrat Kamala Harris will debate tomorrow night. The president's senior advisor and speechwriter Stephen Miller is now the 24th White House staffer to test positive. The president still tweeting that the illness is nothing to fear, and he's getting plenty of pushback.
But even now, the president is suggesting COVID-19 is no worse than the flu. Twitter flagged that tweet for misinformation. And so far this year, more people have died of coronavirus than have died of the flu over the past 5 years combined.
ABC's chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl. Eddie Halen, the guitar virtuoso who helped make Van Halen one of rock's biggest groups, has died of cancer at the age of 65. The Seattle Storm wins the WNBA championship. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
Como News 1000, FM 97.7.
And 1,000 cheers for the Storm tonight. Way to go, ladies. I'm Rick Van Sice with Elisa Jaffe. We continue with our top stories now from the Como 24/7 News Center.
Boeing stock price dropped more than 6% today, and analysts blame it on two different issues. First, the company announced that it's scaling back projections on how many planes will be sold in the next decade. Boeing leaders believe 11% fewer planes will be sold than they had projected at this time last year. Second, President Trump announced he will not negotiate on a stimulus package until after the election. Airlines have been saying that without any federal relief, they will have to lay off tens of thousands of employees this month. More than 32,000 airline employees have already lost their jobs.
The King County Council takes its first crack at a $12.4 billion budget proposal from County Executive Dow Constantine. Details now from Como Sue Romero.
The Budget Committee needs a series of meetings to get through all the things that need review, including proposed changes in social justice, law enforcement, for transit, and the county airport, all impacted by a budget shortfall in the multi-millions due to COVID-19. Among the proposals, job cuts across the county, detailed by council staffer Andrew Kim.
The executive is proposing about 430 position reductions, and of that, 34 would be layoffs.
Despite the layoffs, something new was added, a new pro-equity team in the Office of Equity and Social Justice to handle racism as a public health crisis. The council will dissect the budget over the next 7 weeks before voting on November 17th. Sue Romero, Como News.
The pandemic is causing a growing number of people to fall behind on their utility bills, including many who've never needed help before. Como's Ryan Harris says more as state regulators meet.
State utilities and transportation commissioners heard from people who've built up big bills, worried that when the moratorium on shutoffs ends, they'll lose their lights or heat until they can pay those bills off. John Pilieris with Puget Sound Energy says the utilities are on board with the proposal, in part because it's given them some flexibility that allows them to recoup some of their costs, and because it already allowed them to quickly put up a program to help its customers.
PSC has approved over 13,000 applications for assistance, with several thousand more in the queue, and has posted over $7.6 million to customer accounts.
The UTC agreed to extend the moratorium on residential electric and gas cutoffs until next April, as well as a long-term repayment plan for people who are behind on their bills, with an order expected at their October 15th meeting. Ryan Harris, Como News.
The University of Washington co-hosting a national symposium on coronavirus vaccines today, and Como's Charlie Harger tells us that there was a big emphasis on keeping politics out of the approval process.
Teaming up with leaders from Johns Hopkins University, UW President Anamari Kause said it's important to have the confidence of the public regardless of their politics.
We urgently need working vaccines for COVID-19. Just as importantly, we need public trust in the scientific process that produces those vaccines.
Scientists who spoke at the symposium included Dr. Anthony Fauci. Many of them say clinical trials are nearing completion, but it will take several months to produce enough doses of the vaccine for the general public. Charlie Harger, Como News.
Como News time 6:34, and let's get to Tama Fulton for a check on traffic. Good evening, Tama.
Good evening. We're seeing some slowing on westbound Michigan as you're headed between 6th Avenue South and the 1st Avenue South Bridge, so use caution through that area. We have reports of a stall in Everett on eastbound Highway 2. It's just after Homemakers Road, taking up the right lane. Emergency crews are arriving on the scene. In the Federal Way area, still seeing heavy backups on southbound 5 as you head from Highway 18 in Federal Way to 54th Avenue and 5 due to an earlier crash. That's going to add about 15 minutes to your drive. And in Parkland, a crash on eastbound Highway 512 just before Canyon Road is blocking the right lane. This report is sponsored by the King County Tourism Recovery Plan. A simple change of your environment can change your world. So today, mask up, get out there, and do something for yourself, your community, and to support local businesses. Our next Como traffic at 6:44.
Here's the Como forecast. We'll have some morning fog again, afternoon sun, although a few more clouds creeping in the afternoon as weather starts to change going to the end of the work week. We'll have a high tomorrow in the mid-60s. Rain returns Friday night into Saturday. Downtown now 66 degrees. Como News Time 6:36.
We're less than 2 months away from Thanksgiving and already hearing about Thanksgiving travel, how it's going to be off like everything else has been this year. ABC's Alex Stone joining us on the Como News line. And Alex, you don't need an Ivy League diploma to determine that problem, but it's not just fewer people traveling that's going to be the problem this holiday season.
No, it's a number of different things, and we're seeing it in the numbers today of American Airlines cutting 86,000 flights in November, that they are trimming their schedule from what they were planning on doing. That's about 46% of what they were planning on doing. United, they're saying that they're going to reduce their flights in November 52%. Southwest otherwise that flight would not be flying because they're losing money on it. So there's a lot of trying to figure things out here, whether it be making money off cargo, getting very creative on their routing, but they're doing what they can and trying to survive. And again, you hear the CEO of Southwest there saying they're trying to save the airline.
This is going to be such a tough year. ABC's Alex Stone. Thank you, Alex.
You got it. Thanks, Lisa.
6:40, and Seattle basketball fans dancing in their homes tonight, maybe in the street. The Storm are the WNBA champs, and Como's Bill Swartz with the latest from the Beacon Plumbing Sports Desk.
Talented and determined, the Seattle Storm led by 9 points at halftime, then put the pedal to the metal to dismantle Las Vegas 92-59, the largest margin of victory in any WNBA Finals contest. MVP Breanna Stewart led the Storm with 26. Jewel Lloyd came up with 19 points and paid tribute to her friend, the late Kobe Bryant.
It's the gold shoes, knowing that I'm unique, I'm special. I wore the shoes because of Kobe, right? His jersey number is everything, and he's the first person to ever believe in me.
The Storm franchise earns its 4th WNBA title and plan a virtual celebration this Friday. The Houston Astros got a pair of home runs from George Springer and beat the A's 5-2 in Oakland. So the Stros are up 2-0 in that American League Division Baseball Series. NLDS Game 1 goes to the Atlanta Braves at home, 9-5 over Miami. And the Seattle Seahawks are reportedly talking with 350-pound defensive tackle Damon Snacks Harrison. Sports updates at 10 and 40 after the hour. Bill Swartz, Como News.
No man, no woman, no one left behind. For the VFW, it's a credo that stands long after our fighting days are over, because our service never stops. We're still serving, which is why we pledge to help our own, no matter where they are or when they need us. Standing in lockstep with those who stood so courageously for everyone else. It's what makes us the VFW. Learn more at vfw.org.
Hi, I'm Brad Keselowski, driver number 2, Discount Tire Ford Mustang. If there's one thing I've learned after years on the track, it's that having the right amount of pressure in your tires can make or break performance. Properly inflated tires are essential to the health of your car and to keep you driving safely. Check your tire pressure once a month, especially before road trips, or stop by your neighborhood tire retailer for help.
A message from the U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shelley Flace with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. If you own firearms, it's your responsibility to make sure they're always stored safely. Hiding them in a closet or drawer is not enough. Kids know where they are. Research shows the risk of injury and death is lower if guns are stored unloaded and locked up, with the ammunition locked in a separate place. This is important when children are young, as well as when they grow into teenagers. For more, talk with your pediatrician or visit healthychildren.org.
That sound is why we fund life-saving science. That sound is why we push you to be healthier. That sound is why we have an unhealthy obsession with your health at American Heart Association. Get the facts at heart.org/yourhealth.
This is Brad Keselowski, driver number 2, Discount Tire Ford Mustang. Racing fans know that a quick pit stop to